Hello everyone, today I'd like to talk about something that you will probably use several times a day while traveling in Vietnam, and that is chopsticks. Whether you're enjoying a bowl of phở in Hanoi, having seafood in Da Nang, or joining a local family for dinner in Ho Chi Minh City, chances are someone will hand you a pair of chopsticks. For many visitors, chopsticks are simply an eating tour, but if we look a little deeper, they can actually tell us quite a lot about Vietnamese history, agriculture, family culture, and even traditional beliefs. So today, let's explore a simple but fascinating question. Why do Vietnamese people use chopsticks? To understand why Vietnamese people use chopsticks today, we need to go back more than 1,000 years. The story begins during the period when northern Vietnam was heavily influenced by Chinese culture, along with writing systems, philosophy, and administrative ideas. Chopsticks gradually became part of daily life here as well. However, Vietnamese people didn't simply copy what they learned. Over many centuries, Vietnam developed its own cuisine, its own dining customs, and its own ways of using chopsticks. As Vietnamese food culture evolved, chopsticks naturally became the most practical utensil for the way people prepared and shared food. And eventually, they became a normal part of everyday life throughout the country. And another important reason comes from the way Vietnamese people lived in the past. For thousands of years, Vietnam was an agricultural society built around wet rice cultivation. Most people lived in villages, worked in rice fields, and depended heavily on farming for their livelihood. Because rice was the center of everyday meal, people developed dishes that could be eaten conveniently alongside rice. Unlike the steak in Europe or North America, Vietnamese food is usually prepared before it reaches the table. Vegetables are sliced into smaller pieces, fish is divided into portions, meat is cut into bite-sized pieces. Everything is ready to eat. So when food is prepared this way, chopsticks become extremely practical. You don't really need a knife sitting next to your plate because most of the cutting has already been done in the kitchen. Now, here's something many foreigners notice when they eat with a Vietnamese family for the first time. In many Western countries, each person usually receives their own plate of food. In Vietnam, things often work a little differently. Instead of individual servings, several dishes are placed in the middle of the table for everyone to share. You might see a bowl of soup, a plate of vegetables, some braised fish, a meat dish, and of course, a bowl of rice for each person. Then everyone simply uses their chopsticks to take the food they would like. This style of dining developed over many generations and reflects how important family and community are in Vietnamese culture. The meal is not just about satisfying hunger. It's a time when family members gather together, talk about their day, exchange stories, and strengthen their relationships. And chopsticks fit perfectly into that shared dining experience. For many Vietnamese people, some of their strongest childhood memories come from family dinners. Traditionally, dinner was the time when everyone returned home after a long day. Parents asked children about school, grandparents shared stories and life experiences. Important family discussions often happened around the dining table. Even today, many Vietnamese parents encourage their children to come home for dinner whenever possible. You may also notice something that surprises many foreign visitors. Parents or grandparents sometimes pick up food with their chopsticks and place it directly into a child's bowl. For many Western visitors, this might feel unusual at first, but in Vietnam, it is often seen as a gesture of care, affection, and love. It's a simple way of saying, I want you to eat well. Besides history and family traditions, there is also a deeper cultural layer behind Vietnamese food. Traditional Vietnamese thinking was influenced by the philosophy of yin and yang, as well as the concept of the 5 elements. In the past, many people believed that a good meal should create balance within the body. For example, some foods were considered hot, while others were considered cool. That's why Vietnamese cuisine often combines ingredients carefully. When eating seafood, people frequently add ginger, chili, or Vietnamese coriander. Duck is commonly served with ginger fish sauce. Boiled chicken is often paired with lime leaves. The idea is to create harmony between different ingredients. And there is also an interesting way of looking at a traditional Vietnamese meal through the 5 elements. Wooden chopsticks represent wood. The soup or broth represents water. The cooking process requires fire. The bowl holding the food represents earth. And metal cooking utensils or knives represent metal. So, symbolically speaking, before the food even enters your mouth, all 5 elements are already present at the dining table. And whether people consciously think about it today or not, it reflects an old belief that humans should live in harmony with nature rather than separate from it. And like many aspects of Vietnamese culture, chopsticks are also connected to manners and etiquette. Vietnamese children usually learn how to use chopsticks from a very young age. Along the way, they are also taught certain dining rules. For example, placing chopsticks upright in a bowl of rice is generally avoided because it resembles incense sticks used during ancestor worship ceremonies and funerals. Putting chopsticks at other people is considered impolite. Using chopsticks to play with food or tap bowls repeatedly is also discouraged. These customs may seem small, but they reflect a broader cultural value that is still important in Vietnam today, showing respect to people around you. Traditionally, most Vietnamese chopsticks are made from bamboo, and the reason is quite simple. Bamboo grows almost everywhere in Vietnam, and the villagers use bamboo to build houses, make baskets, create fishing tools, and produce household items. So naturally, it also became the ideal material for making chopsticks. And even today, many Vietnamese people still prefer bamboo or wooden chopsticks because they feel more traditional and environmentally friendly. Vietnam has changed dramatically over the last few decades. Modern shopping malls, international restaurants, and global food chains can now be found in almost every major city. Young people enjoy pizza, burgers, sushi, and Korean fried chicken. However, when it comes to traditional Vietnamese food, chopsticks are still the first choice for most people. In fact, many Vietnamese dishes simply feel more natural to eat with chopsticks. Try eating a bowl of pho using only a fork and then you will quickly understand why chopsticks have survived for so many generations. So, why do Vietnamese people use chopsticks? Part of the answer comes from history. Part of it comes from thousands of years of rice farming. Part of it comes from the way Vietnamese families share meals together. And part of it reflects traditional ideas about balance, harmony, and respect. A pair of chopsticks may seem like a very small object, but behind the two simple sticks is a story that stretches across centuries of Vietnamese history and culture. And sometimes, the simplest things can tell us the most interesting stories about a country. So the next time you pick up a pair of chopsticks in Vietnam, you will know that you're holding much more than an eating utensil. You're holding a small piece of Vietnamese culture itself.